I have a graham cracker. It's appropriate. I'm talking about cracker. And he has the biscuit fruit. So figured a cracker was appropriate. I'm not gonna eat the whole thing right now. I'll finish it later. I couldn't resist. The joke's right there, and I'm not setting off a firecracker in my room. Mostly because I don't have any firecrackers, and it's not that time of year. Although, on 4th of July, my aunt and uncle really love setting off fireworks, so, you know, that's always fun. So, going into Thousand Arms Charlotte Cracker. He is the 10th son and the 15th child of the Charlotte family. He is the oldest brother in the triplet set that is Cracker, Custard, and Angel. I actually really like Custard's design. There's not really much of a reason for me to talk about her, but I am going to mention her here. I do like her design, and she has her own little ship, which is adorable. I wish we saw a little bit more of her, just because of the fact that I like her design, but, you know, that's what we got. Not too much that comes with that. I just noticed this shirt is like purple in real life, and on the screen it looks like really dark blue. So I don't know what's going on with that, but whatever. But back to Cracker. Cracker is also one of the 3 sweet commanders within the Big Mom Pirates, meaning that he is one of the highest ranked and probably one of the strongest fighters that they have. And given how hard of a fight he gives Luffy in the actual story when I get to it, he is pretty strong, and he definitely knows how to use his devil fruit to his advantage. And I will talk about that in a minute. But he is also the Minister of Biscuits and governs Biscuit Island, as I mentioned when I did that all the different islands video. But, you know, for as, you know, integral as he is as this setup as like at the beginning of Totland when, or, you know, a little ways into Totland when they're during the Seducing Woods fight with Brule and everything like that. I mean, Cracker doesn't show back up again until the cover story because he gets knocked the F out by Luffy. Because Cracker does not handle pain well. And Luffy takes advantage of that later. But given what Cracker has to work with, he does pretty good about trying to, like, you know, minimize the amount of pain that gets inflicted upon him. I mean, he has like a big scar on his face that was probably inflicted at some point in time during a previous battle or possibly in training with like maybe Katakuri or something, but we don't really know anything beyond that. But yeah, he's a baby when it comes to pain, as they point out in the story. He's like, yeah, I don't like pain, so I just have my biscuit soldiers, you know, take all of the attacks for me, which is smart. So Cracker, along with Custard and Angel, are all 45 years old, which means that they would have been alive during the time frame that, you know, Big Mom was part of the Rock's Pirates, possibly even born during the time frame when she was part of the Rock's Pirates. And they probably would have memories of rocks and stuff like that, or even memories of like their mom telling them stories about, you know, her crusades with the Rock's Pirates and everything like that. But then again, since we don't really know if Big Mom tells stories to her kids even when they were a lot younger, or if the older kids tell stories to the younger kids about, you know, Mama's adventures or stuff like that. We don't really know if she would have, you know, told her children about, I remember when I was on Rox's crew and Kaido was a dick at times, but he was a little brother to me, and Whitebeard was the mushy gushy kind and stuff like that. Shiki was just weird. He was obsessed with experimenting on animals. It was sad. You know, just whatever the heck was happening. Rox, I really don't know how to describe Rox. Headlong into battle. I don't know. Maybe there's flashbacks of that the kids have where they talk about rocks, where like Big Mom talks about rocks, or where the older kids, you know, talk about, you know, what it was like having their mom on Rox's crew or whatever the case may be. We're not sure. There's not, I'm going to mention here that he, of course, has a sword. That's his main fighting weapon, is his sword, and it is named Pretzel. And I have a pretzel. This I am going to eat. Oh no, now the pretzel is gone. However, will Cracker defend himself? But he has a sword that is named Pretzel, which I just like because I really like pretzels. They're one of my favorite snack foods. At my previous job, I would sit and snack on them while I worked because it was something that I could easily do and it wasn't particularly messy. So his sword Pretzel, it is a Meito grade, similar to how Amande's sword is a Meito grade. So it's a pretty high ranked sword in that regard, which means he probably takes good care of it. He seems to take great pride in the sword, as we see later, as we see throughout the fight with Luffy and Nami in the Seducing Woods. And, he has armament hockey and observation hockey, same basic stuff that, probably, as I said, most of the Charlotte siblings that are old enough probably have and that have trained enough. We never find out if Pudding has armament or observation hockey, but maybe she just hasn't started training in it yet. That's a possibility, and Pudding will come up later in this video. But, so Cracker has that, and his other method of fighting that he has is, of course, his Bisu no Mi, or the biscuit fruit. And this allows him to create and manipulate biscuits at will. And, well, a lot of people, again, it's like one of those, things where it's like it's presented to you as, well, this fruit allows you to make and control biscuits. Okay, I'm not, initially a lot of people may not see that as something that could be a threat to them, but Cracker has gone above and beyond, as has, Katakuri and how he uses his mochi, and has, Perospero and how he uses his, his lick fruit. He has, Cracker has gone above and beyond how he fights with his devil fruit, which is very, very admirable. And I'll go over some of that in more detail when I go through and talk about the fight that he has with Luffy. But he has worked it so the biscuits are so hard that they act like they are coated in armament hockey. On top of that, he can add armament hockey with them. On top of that, he uses it to create his biscuit soldiers that are then something that he is generally inside of one of them and acting as a puppeteer inside of it, to the point where he respects artistic craft so much he has jam in the damn things, so that way if they get hit it looks like they're bleeding. I'm like, I gotta hand that to Cracker. The man has put in a lot of work on this effort in regards to getting his devil fruit really high spec in regards to how he uses it. And I gotta give credit where credit is due. It's like, I like him better than I like Perospero. But, even Perospero, I gotta give Perospero credit where credit was due in regards to how he uses his devil fruit. And, it's that same concept of, like, when life gives you lemons, find a way to turn those lemons into grenades in this regard. There might be a lemon devil fruit out there somewhere, although I'm not exactly sure what it would do. I have lemons. They're really sour. That's about it. Give that to someone, they can make it into a weapon. Give someone enough time and they can turn that into a weapon. And really the only thing that generally seems to be the main weakness of the crackers, or the biscuits that Cracker is able to make, is water or liquids, because we see Nami mess with this when, she uses her rain clouds and stuff like that to make the biscuits either toasted, and then Luffy is kind of able to try to eat them, and then when she uses the rain to then make them, wet and soggy, and then that means Luffy is actually able to A, punch through them, B, eat through them. So, they figured out that tactic, but it's also like, Cracker has done a very good job of being able to A, hide his real face, because his bounty poster is the bounty poster of the Cracker puppet, the same way that Frankie's bounty poster was the, Frankie Shogun and now the Thousand Sunny. So he can kind of go pass off as, not, one of the Straw Hats if necessary. But there's this whole setup for like where Cracker is just like, yeah, this is the way that I fight. And yeah, it is kind of me hiding so I don't get hurt, so I don't have to experience pain. But he's still really strong in what he's regarding and, able to do. And, he's a Yonko commander. I'm not saying he would necessarily be able to be any of like, Kaido's Yonko commanders in regards to the calamities, King, Queen, or Jack. But, well, maybe Jack. I don't know. Maybe Cracker could beat Jack. Cracker Jack. I'm an idiot. I'm a dork. Okay, into Cracker's history. So, as I mentioned, Cracker is 45 years old, along with his sisters, Custard and Angel. Angel's design is fine, but I more prefer Custard's design. She has purple hair, and I like purple hair. Cracker, Custard, and Angel would have been born probably during the time frame that Big Mom was on Rox's crew. There's probably a theory that could be made there that maybe one of the guys on the crew was their dad, possibly, or that she met the dad while she was out and about with the Rox pirates, possibly. We don't know too much about his childhood. He's not there during the flashback with Katakuri and Brule and all of that stuff that happens. I would assume he would have been around at that point in time, but he was probably just a lot younger and not involved in what happened because, 45 years ago, he would have only been like 5 or 6 when everything went down with God Valley, so maybe not have a huge amount of memories of the Rox Pirates crew, but some, maybe. Again, I want to know who the F was watching Big Mom's kids while she was off on Rox's crew, because it wasn't Stroyson, because he was on the crew too. So who was watching her kids? Or were they on the crew at times as well, on the ship at times as well? And like around all the Rox pirates, and like Whitebeard probably wouldn't have had a problem with them. Kaido, I don't know. I mean, Kaido's not the best with kids from what we've seen with Yamato, but there were compounding issues with that. I don't know. And we don't really get to see Big Mom when, back when she was, a new mom, how she treated her kids. We see how she kind of treats her kids over the course of the time throughout this whole arc, and she's very abusive to a lot of them. But she's very nice to the young ones, and a lot of them would have been very young while the time she was on Rox's crew. So, but that's more about Big Mom. Pretty much where we get Cracker to start out with is during the Seducing Woods fight, because what happens is while Brule is starting to deal with the Straw Hats in the Seducing Woods, because they've been sent there by Pudding, who tricked them into heading there, stating that she'll be there with Sanji so they can get Sanji and then leave. And it's Brule is there messing with them, and Cracker gets sent there by Big Mom. But we find out actually that he's fought against a previous member of the Worst Generation. He fought against Arouge during the 2-year time skip when Arouge showed up in the New World. He showed up, fought against Snack, and then Cracker was sent along with Prometheus and Zeus and this massive fleet to defeat Arouge very quickly. And he did it. He defeated Arouge pretty quickly. And then, Arouge scampered off and went to hide on a Sky Island, hide on Balloon Terminal for a while he, healed up, which is fair enough. So we know that, Cracker, has fought Arouge, but we don't know exactly, the fight ended with Cracker winning, but he also had Prometheus and Zeus there with him along with a massive fleet to, deal with Arouge's crew. So, that happened. But then going into the Whole Cake Island arc itself, what happens is, of course, Cracker is sent in to assist Brule in the Seducing Woods with dealing with Luffy and Nami and the rest of the Sanji retrieval team that's there at the time being. And, he shows up, and we have these moments where as he's going through the forest, he's just, all of so many of the different homies, the different plant homies and stuff like that, are just dying out of sheer terror of him. And, I mean, that's literally, they're scared to death because they're scared of Cracker because he was sent there by Mama. And it seems that most of the homies at least obey Big Mom's children pretty easily. Whether that's just an innate sense of oh, we know that you're Mama's child, so yeah, we're going to listen to you. But if someone shows up with the Viver card, like what happens with Nami, we're gonna listen to them because she has a piece of Mama's soul with her. She has a representation of Mama's soul with her, so that kind of trumps just being Mama's kid. So there's like that could be brought into concept there. But Cracker shows up in the woods, and him and Brule actually kind of argue because Brule's like, I can handle this myself, Cracker. You don't need to be here. I can take care of these guys just fine on my own with all my mirror clones and everything like that, and I was doing just fine before you showed up. And Cracker is just kind of like, well, Mama sent me here just to make sure that everything is all taken care of. Oh, look, hey, it's, father, stepfather. Oh, no, it's just Pound because Mama ditched you. And, like, just lifts Pound out of the ground and starts threatening him. And, like, Nami and Luffy are just like, what in the world is going on? And, so Cracker starts threatening Pound, which is where we get kind of the setup for, like, how all of Mama's children see her past husbands and the fact that they were, for all intents and purposes, just sperm donors that stuck around for a little while and then were ditched by Mama after the babies were born and healthy, as we saw illustrated with Pound and Chiffon and Lola. With everything that happened with Pound. But, like, he picks up, Cracker picks up Pound and starts, trying to attack him, and he tries to, assassinate him. And Luffy pops up, and Luffy, intercepts the attack and saves Pound and everything, which then just leads to where we kind of start getting the start of the fight between Luffy and Cracker, where they start going off against each other. There's a few other things that happen during this time frame. Cracker points out the fact in regards to Relay that, like, Luffy managed to defeat Doflamingo, and as strong as you are, sister, with your mirror powers and everything like that, you're not stronger than Doflamingo. And this kid was able to defeat Doflamingo. So I was sent anyway just to help make sure that everything goes fine and that we get him defeated. And this is where we start getting the moments where, it's a little bit of like the sibling bickering between, Cracker and Brule, but they end up working fine as a team because, like, they divide and conquer. Brule gets gets Chopper and Carrot sucked into the mirror world, where she then goes to deal with them, which I'll talk about more when I talk about Brule. And then for who I think is next on the list, I think Brule is next on my list for who I'll talk about. But what happens is, of course, that's where Cracker starts dealing with Nami and Luffy. And first he tries to deal with Luffy. Well, Luffy tries to get Nami to run away, and she has like King Bombs and starts, trying to order King Palm around because of the Beaver card. And Luffy and Cracker start fighting. Bear in mind, Cracker is still in his, his original form. It's his giant biscuit soldier, form that he has. And Luffy starts trying to fight against him, and he starts beating him up, and he's using elephant, Gumu Gumu no elephant gun for his Gatling and everything like that, and hot Gatling. And Cracker, because of the biscuits being so strong and hard and everything like that, he is able to, block the attack from Luffy and take the attacks pretty easily. And then he starts pulling out his swords, and he starts bragging about how awesome Pretzel is. And then he, like, multiplies his arms and has more swords that look exactly like Pretzel. And then starts trying to stab Luffy with them. Which I actually kind of like watching the fight scene, because, like, I thought that it had lasted longer than it did. And I know in the anime they kind of padded it out a little bit just to add a little bit more tension to it, which is fine. That's padding that makes sense, and, non-canon stuff that makes sense. But there's other stuff that they do in the series that is just like, that was not necessary. Why did you do that? But what ends up happening is, they keep fighting and fighting and fighting, and eventually what ends up happening is Cracker is also, like, taunting Luffy during all of this stuff, and he's, he tends to convince him that Sanji would be happier, or no, it's Luffy is trying to convince Cracker that Sanji would be happier leaving with the Straw Hats, and instead of staying there and marrying Pudding and everything like that. And Cracker just keeps, they're just fighting this whole time, and Luffy tries to activate, Gear Fourth and everything, and he activates Gear Fourth, and he is able to finally land the Gummy Gummy no King Kong gun, or Kong gun on Cracker. And that starts to cause some more damage, and eventually Luffy is able to finally actually cause damage to Cracker, where he actually breaks the Cracker armor, the Cracker puppet armor, and there's quote unquote blood jam that pops out, and I think Luffy used like cannonball or something like that against him. I don't remember exactly, but he's able to finally, cause enough damage to the puppet Cracker shell, that it falls apart, and then out pops the real Cracker. And he, is like, yeah, no, I use these puppets as a way of keeping myself safe, because I hate pain, and I have such a low pain threshold that like even just like stubbing my toe can put me on my back for a day, or whatever the case may be. So I developed this setup, and he's like basically explaining to Luffy that's why I have the biscuit armor, and he like claps and makes more biscuits, and more of the biscuit soldiers show up, and those are then what Luffy has to try fighting. Unfortunately, during this time frame is when Luffy's Gear Fourth wears out, and he is having to try to run away, and he keeps trying to, Luffy's trying to run away, but he's just exhausted. And that's, of course, when Nami comes in, rallying the troops, aka forcing the troops to fight alongside them with King Bomb and the homies from the Seducing Woods with the beaver cart to go back and save Luffy and everything. And starts, trying to attack, has them attacking Cracker, and there's a moment where King Bomb shows up and is doing something, and Cracker just kind of stands there and just goes, King Bomb, why are you helping them? And he's just like, I think Cracker literally does the face palm thing, where he's just like, okay, what is going on here? Why are you doing this? You're loyal to Mama. Why are you helping them? And King Bomb is just like crying, like, I'm sorry, Sir Cracker. They have Mama's fever card, and I have to obey them. I'm sorry. And like Cracker's just like, fine. And then he just like slices off King Bomb's head, or the top of King Bomb's head. And it's just like, I love that moment, because it's like the slight moment of levity where Cracker is arguing with a tree, which is just funny. So they go through all of that, so that's just kind of funny there. And then of course, then we start getting into, once Luffy's recovered enough, we start getting into the actual the big main finale of the fight, where Nami is able to create rain to start softening the biscuit soldiers, which then enables Luffy to then start eating them, and just gobbling them all up and everything like that. And as fast as Cracker can make them, Nami keeps making it rain, and because there's all these like different juices and stuff like that in the forest and the Seducing Woods, Brenda's like, I want crackers. I like crackers. I like biscuits. Can I have a biscuit? I give you part of a graham cracker. How's that sound? You want a piece of a graham cracker? I don't know if I want this. I don't know. I will eat it. Well, she's eating it. You can hear her chewing it in the background if you want. And what ends up happening is, of course, because there's so many of the different like juice rivers and stuff like that in the forest or in the Seducing Woods, Nami is able to use that to make the crackers have different flavors. So Luffy keeps gobbling through them, all of them. And this is where we finally get Luffy in the, his Tank Man form, full version. Which honestly, I don't know if that's ever going to pop up in the story again. I could see possibly, but I don't see another instance where Luffy's going to have to eat his way through his opponent in all intents and purposes. I mean, he did try to eat Crocodile, like the way that Wapol, tried to eat Luffy and stuff like that, but it's a different concept here. Crocodile was sand and a Logia and can control it. This is Cracker, and he has biscuits, and they're not a Logia. Still exceedingly clever in how he uses it, though, for how he fights. And eventually, Luffy in full, Tank Man full version, he is finally able to. There's the moment where Cracker tries to use Pretzel to pierce Luffy, and the Pretzel along with Cracker just gets like sucked in to Luffy. And I don't know if this is supposed to be a hint as to what'll happen later on with Gear 5th, or if it's where it's just going to be, oh, it's Luffy and he ate so much and his stomach is so like rubbery at this point in time and so fat at this point in time that it just is like sucking Cracker in. I'm just like, I don't know, but it was funny. And then Luffy just propels him out and sends him flying with extreme force, just well through the seducing woods, destroying so many different trees and homies along the way that just like turn into the husks of themselves because they're so scared. And they incurred, I guess, enough damage, and it just fires him all the way through, and he ends up flying through Sweet City, crashing through a couple of the buildings, and then finally crashes into the side of Whole Cake Chateau, where he is just completely knocked out and unconscious from all the pain, and he just had inflicted upon him, where he is found by Montdor, Galette, and Opera. And I'll talk about Montdor and Galette later because I'm going to do videos about them. Opera, I don't care about Opera. I don't like Opera. But, he's found by his siblings, and they're just like, oh no, Big Brother Cracker or Brother Cracker, what happened? Oh my God. And they're just so panicked and worried because, they actually, the siblings actually care about each other for the most part. Most of the different, Charlotte siblings actually care about each other. And they're really worried for Cracker, so they're like, oh my God, what happened? And so they have to rush Cracker to the infirmary, and we don't see Cracker for the rest of the arc. Brenda's like, I want another cracker, Mommy. More crackers? I like that one, it tasted good. I'm almost done talking about Cracker, and then I can give you a little bit more of the graham cracker. How's that sound? I can live with that. That'll be fine. Talk fast. So we don't see Cracker for the rest of the arc. I know at some point in time I thought, some people thought that, oh, we might see him in the infirmary where Reiju is later on after Reiju gets shot by Pudding. But I'm like, no, that wouldn't make sense. They would just treat Cracker in his own room or something like that. Or have a separate infirmary for where they would have the family as opposed to where they would put guests or something like that. Some combination of that. I don't know. But the next time we see Cracker is during the Jirma 66's an emotionless excursion cover page series. And what we see there is that it's Sundays after stuff has happened during the Whole Cake Island arc, after the Straw Hats have left, and it's after Big Mom has left to go and try to go after the Straw Hats after Luffy and his group off to Wano. Doggy by the window, doggy by the window. Pretty puppy. And what happens is Cracker is in the infirmary at this point in time, being, mostly recovered from his injuries. And he's there talking with Brûlée, and she tells him that they've gotten reports that there's someone attacking Cacao Island, attacking Chocolate Town. And they assume that it is supposed to be Ichiji and Reiju who have returned to try to save Ichiji. Niji has tried to come to save Niji and Yunji, the two siblings I care the least about. Hi, Brenda. And what happens is, they're like, oh, it must be them attacking attacking Cacao Island, trying to save their siblings and trying to save their brothers. So Cracker goes through, and Brûlée goes as well, and they go to try to, protect Cacao Island, protect Chocolate Town. When they get there, they find that no, it's not the Vinsmoke siblings that are there. It's the Blackbeard pirates. and they are trying to abduct Pudding. And in the anime, they kind of pad this out a little bit, where they have like Cracker try to fight against, Kuzan and everything, and he just gets walloped in like one move from Kuzan and just frozen solid. And we see, in the cover page series, we just literally see like, Cracker goes through and then he gets frozen, is not able, see him reaching out trying to save something and he can't save it. And then, Brule shows up and she's just horrified over the fact that A, her brother has been frozen solid. B, the rest of the town is also frozen solid. C, Pudding is gone. Pudding is just gone. And Pudding was captured by Kuzan and, Augur, as is revealed in the cover page series and as is revealed in the chapter at the same time when we get the cover page series for that. And Cracker is just frozen solid and just like, ah! And yeah, so bear in mind, I'm recording this like a week or two before it's going to go up. But I don't think we're going to get any more information about Cracker during this time frame before this video goes up, because it's still, I don't think we're going to get any more updates on Cracker while we're at, Egghead Island for a little while. And we started a different cover page series, so I don't think that's going to happen. But we'll see what happens with that. I don't really expect there to be too much if Cracker ever shows back up again. I mean, like, if the Charlotte siblings show back up again, Cracker might be there. I don't expect there to be a whole lot with him. I don't exactly expect him and the rest of the, some of the Charlotte siblings may decide to fight on the side of the Straw Hats, like Katakuri might, and particularly if they save Pudding, particularly if the Straw Hats save Pudding, then they might be more willing to work with them. But it's also like, you guys were kind of the thing that led to our mother possibly being killed. We're not 100% sure about that yet, but possibly our mother is dead now. And, you did destroy our home, and you attacked our islands, and you disgraced Katakuri, so we're not happy with you. But I really don't expect to get too much more from Cracker if he shows back up again. He'll probably just be part of the fighting forces if the Big Mom Pirates show back up again. There's not too much about Cracker in regards to like trivia. I mean, it's, his name is a pun on 3 different things. It's, Cracker is in like a cracker, like a wafer cracker, but then also biscuits that are part of his devil fruit are kind of like cookies in the UK. That's what they call cookies or biscuits. And then also, his hair has like the sparkler thing in it for like a firecracker, playing on that part of his name. So that's all there. His birthday is February 28th, which is known as Biscuit Day, I guess, in Japan. His favorite foods are biscuits, which is not surprising at all. And his soldiers are kind of a reference to like the gingerbread man and the fact that they're human-esque shaped, but not really super, I guess, of a reference there. And then, as I said, like him and Frankie, they have the similarity in the fact that both of their wanted posters do not actually show them. For Cracker, it shows his biscuit soldier form, and then he also, for Frankie, it shows the it showed the Frankie Shogun, and then it showed the Thousand Sunny now. But also with Cracker, we see him use his devil fruit powers, and we know that they kind of combine that with Big Mom's by like him making his biscuit soldiers, and then she, puts a little bit of a homing soul into them, and makes it that they are now like, sentient little soldiers that like, well, not fully sentient, but like, that march around and like patrol the island and stuff like that, because Brooke and Pedro end up interacting with one. They hide inside of one, if I remember correctly, to make their way inside of the Whole Cake Chateau. But there's not too much else there. I mean, I liked Cracker's design. I think he looks kind of interesting. I like his color palette. I find it hilarious that he is voiced by the same guy that voices Todoroki, voices Shoto in the English dub for My Hero Academia, which is kind of funny. And, they both have scars on their faces, so it's just like, do you have a casting type? But I just find that funny. But it's Funimation, so it's just like, yeah, they're gonna reuse voice actors a lot, which is fine. I enjoy that. But not really much else here with Cracker. What is the next one that I have set for these? The next one I believe is supposed to be, yep, Brulee is next. Yep, I'll be doing Brulee next for the next Charlotte sibling video and see how that lands compared to when the chapters come back. So that's what I have. I thank you for watching, and I hope you have a nice rest of your day.